Hey church, I'm obviously filming from our sanctuary up in the balcony, and thought, man, this would be a great spot for our COVID devotional for today, Saturday, 25th of April, and I'm on the fourth pew. I'm sitting on the fourth pew, so I may be in your spot if you're one of our, as I call them affectionately, our balcony dwellers. Just wanted you to know that your spot is still here and ready to be back in here and worshiping together. It is definitely silent in here right now, but just so excited for when we can get back together and worship together in the sanctuary. But God had placed a passage on my heart for today for this devotional out of Nehemiah 2. And if you know the story, God calls Nehemiah to come back to Jerusalem to help with rebuilding the walls around Jerusalem. In that day and time, if a city didn't have walls around it, they were in grave danger because anyone at any time, any other country, another group of people could come in and just ransack the people. There was no defense. So the people of God were in grave danger. So God called Nehemiah to come back and gave him this vision, and came back and helped when he got word it was broken by the state of the walls. Came back and began to look and see what needed to be done. And in chapter 2 of Nehemiah, we read, starting in verse 11, after I arrived in Jerusalem and had been there 3 days, I got up at night and took a few men with me. I didn't tell anyone what my God had laid on my heart to do for Jerusalem. The only animal I took was the one I was riding. I went out at night through the valley gate toward the serpent's well and the dung gate, and I inspected the walls of Jerusalem that had been broken down and its gates that had been destroyed by fire. I went on to the fountain gate and to the king's pool, but farther down it came too narrow for my animal to go through. So I went up at night by the way of the valley and inspected the wall. And we read more of the account. And you can read that there in Nehemiah 2. But just to summarize, he inspects all the walls around Jerusalem, and then he gets with his few men that he brought with him. And he begins to kind of share the vision that God has given him. And I love the picture of that. It so applies to leadership. It so applies to pastors, but also just any leaders that we need to bathe these decisions in prayer, and we need to do diligence in inspecting the situation. But I was thinking through this and how it applies right now in our time as God laid this on my heart, and I think it really applies to us personally. It's easy for us, and if you're a leader in a secular organization or in a church or whatever, it's easy for us to think leadership and look at organizations. It is infinitely more difficult for us to look inside, for us to look at ourselves. And yet that's really where leadership begins. We know that we really can't lead our family effectively, our organizations effectively, our churches effectively until we are leading ourselves and we're being led by God. That's how we are led, and looking inside and seeing what needs to happen. And so in this time, it's sad, and it breaks my heart that we hear of marriages that are struggling. And I'm not talking about anybody personally that I've heard that's struggling, but just you hear that divorce rates are increasing now, and even on the tail end of this, that marital strife is increasing. And so it just, for me, what that passage meant today and in this situation I'm looking at our church and praying through, all right, God, what does this change, not just in this season, but after this, but also, God, what needs to change in me? As I really inspect the walls around my life, one of the disadvantages that we have right now in this social distancing is we can't be around people, or at least close to people, is, we've got people that have connected through Zoom, and that's awesome, and through other apps, through other avenues, through phone calls, things like that, are continuing to connect with people, and I encourage you to do that. It is different, and it's easier to not be totally transparent through those avenues like you would have to in person. But then a lot of people have just totally cut themselves off in this time and not sought out extra ways that they can continue to not be socially distant while they're socially distancing. And so we see, people that are, I think our walls are coming down, not in a good way, not our social barrier walls, but our walls to sin, our walls to Satan, our walls that we build up to protect ourselves and to guard our hearts. And so, man, I just encourage you in this time to, Nehemiah was intentional. He didn't take people's word for it. He didn't just imagine the state of the walls. He actually intentionally got up at night, got people with him. He didn't go alone, and he went out to see the walls for himself. It took incredible intentionality. It took incredible focus. It took, for us, it's going to take those same. It's going to take transparency. And I love that Nehemiah didn't do it alone, that he took some of his closest guys with him. And so, I encourage you in this time, as we prepare to at some point come back and worship together again, be intentional in this time. What does God want to do in this time with you? And what right now are you allowing into your life? And it doesn't have to be something that we picture as huge like pornography, but is it laziness? Can you be more intentional with your family? Are there things that that you have built walls around in the past to guard your heart and keep yourself close to God, that you're in this time where you're much more isolated, that you're letting down? Don't do that. It can lead you into an incredible amount of trouble. And so, if I can help you in that, if there's anything we can do to walk with you through any kind of struggle that you're going through in this, and I mean this seriously, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Reach out to us, message us through Facebook. You can do that. You can email me. My email's on the website. You can email one of our other pastors, Brian or Richard. But we don't want you doing life alone. And at a time where it's easy, and in some ways we're even encouraged to do that, I just encourage you to keep doing life with other people. Keep being transparent as you even have to try extra hard to do that. But if we can help you in any way, we'd love to help you. But inspect those walls. Stay close to God. Stay protected. And on the tail end of this, we'll be in much better shape. We love you. We care about you. Hope you have a wonderful Saturday, and hope you join us tomorrow as we worship online together.